So if you couldn't tell by the title, this is one of those movies where you are screwed no matter what you think of it. Hence the title, damned if you do, damned if you don't. This movie has been so divisive, and even leading up to the release, it was very problematic, divisive amongst fans of Superman, DC, superhero movies, people who like or dislike James Gunn. It's just been overall a really crazy experience to kind of watch happen, especially for a hero and a character who symbolizes hope, truth and justice and the American way, and is a very positive character. So it's just interesting to see all the negative discourse around this movie. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today. I feel like I need to rant about this because I feel bad that my wife has to hear me talk about it as much as she does. So now I'm going to make you guys subjected to it because it's kind of a huge problem, honestly. And no matter what you think of this movie, there's going to be some, premeditated opinions no matter what. If you guys didn't know, the character of Superman has been, ironically enough, very controversial in the past, decade or, 2 decades or so. And especially with the, exit of Henry Cavill, people don't like the way he was treated, and they really liked his Superman, just maybe not all of his movies that he appeared in. So when we got him in Black Adam and people found out he was going to be, getting another movie, he was getting a sequel, they were so happy and so excited, and I was one of those people. And then all of that got canned, oddly enough, a few months after that, which is just bizarre that you would even let that release, let that information out, just to cancel it a few months later. But they did cancel it, and they announced that James Gunn would be taking over DC, him and Peter Safran, in basically a Kevin Feige type role. And one of his first major movies to launch his new universe would be Superman. So yeah, people were skeptical and angry and every other emotion between, to say the least. And this movie has two sides of the fan base. One side is very much on board for the hopeful side of things. That's actually kind of, I don't know if they've meant to do this, but it feels like that's what it's been marketed off of, is just hope, and that feeling of not only hope that the DC universe will be back to its former glory, but hope that, just in good things, because the world's in a kind of a bad spot right now. People need that, so it's a good message. And then there's the other side of the fan base who hopes that this all fails and Henry Cavill can come back. So it's very, very different, I will say. But my main issue comes in on a lot of stuff I've been seeing online, and that is for example, I follow a YouTuber I really like. His name's Holden Hardman. He does a lot of reaction content, but he also does some reviews, and he recently reviewed this movie, and he gave a pretty it wasn't a biased review whatsoever. He actually liked the movie more than he disliked it. He gave it an overall positive rating and review. He just had some gripes with it, but as I mentioned earlier, that's where this stuff comes in, where it's even his small gripes, his small issues with the film that he personally had. And I guess this happens with most movies, but I'm bringing this up because it's just so ironic, considering how I just told you guys, one side of the fan base is basing all their stuff on hope and positivity and being kind, because kindness is punk rock, and then they turn out to be just as negative as the other side. So he gave these his opinion, him and his friend did. And I went in the comments, and all the comments are basically telling him why they're wrong, how they're stupid for not picking up on certain things, and how they must not have really watched the movie, and how they're biased. Snyder fans who deserve to rot. It's dude, it's crazy. It's nuts. Okay, I've had movies I liked, and I see my favorite YouTubers, and they didn't like it. And I'm not going to lie, it kind of hurts, because you want everybody to enjoy the stuff you enjoy. But at the same time, I've never once thought to leave a comment like that. But also, especially if I was basing my entire, my whole fan base, if we based our side on positivity and hope and uplifting each other, I definitely would not be leaving comments like that. And it's just nuts to me. It's crazy, man. The double, the hypocrisy is just nuts. I almost said double standard, but it's hypocrisy. And With that being said, there is other sides to it too, where it's like people will leave positive reviews, like they just love the movie, like no complaints. They were like crying, and they had a great time. They say this is their Superman, and they're so excited for the DC universe to continue in this form, and they get hate, and it's like, dude, I understand. Listen, I get it. That's how the internet is, and there's not really any changing it. But this just has really been bugging me, especially with this movie, because it seems so like harmless. Because here's the reality: I loved Henry Cavill's Superman, and I actually liked that take on the DC characters. I think DC fits better for the darker side of the comic book genre, but that ship has sailed. I mean, if you don't think it has, I'm sorry, but you're in denial. And trust me, as much as I wish Henry could come back as Superman, even if they invited him, I don't think he would come back. So, that ship has sailed. And even if it hadn't, being negative like this is going to do nothing good for anybody. I mean, I think it's one of those things where kindness really is needed, especially on the internet, because it's so easy to just like look at people as not people and just shit talk them and just go off on them and attack them personally, which is just bizarre to me. Like, I always thought people that did that are a little bit messed up in the head anyways, but, especially with this whole Superman stuff, I mean, the reviews I've been seeing getting hate, like the one I just mentioned, are like not even that negative. But then you have positive ones that are nothing but positive, and they're getting hate because they didn't hate it enough as another person. And honestly, the person who's commenting that probably didn't even go see the movie. Now, make no mistake, this is not a review of the movie. I'm not giving my review of the movie in this video. I don't know if I will at all, because, like I said, it just seems to do no good, because this is a movie people have their minds made up on, where I feel like reviews are useless, because it's like, you're going to see it or you're going to not. I don't think a good review is going to change your mind if you're already dead set on not seeing this movie. So, really no point there. My point is, it's just like, it's super frustrating and disappointing that this is the point we've gotten to, where it's like, you can't even enjoy a movie, and there's some movies that are like downright offensive, but they're so few and far between. But it's gotten to the point where you can't even enjoy a movie anymore and talk about it online with other people that enjoyed the movie without getting shit on. And then if you enjoyed the movie, but not as much as those people who I just talked about, you also get shit on by those people. So it's like an endless cycle of just shit talking and name calling, and people treat each other like garbage. And it's just so sad and ironic, because, as I mentioned, this character is so much based on hope and lifting each other up and being kind to each other and seeing the good and beauty in everybody. And, it's just, it's like the antithesis of what this character stands for. So I just think it's very odd that this is the reaction that it's had online. And, I mean, there's a few reasons for that, in my opinion. I truly do believe the way James Gunn has handled all of this could have been much better. There's been times where he antagonizes, the other side of people, the Snyder side, or the Snyder cultists, as people call them. And there's been other times where the Snyder side, they just find anything to pick apart. Now, granted, in my opinion, there are more than enough things to pick apart in this movie, especially if you're looking for them. But if you're just looking to go have a good time, then just do that. You don't have to justify it to anybody. And if you do, then maybe it's not the movie you think it is. But that's what I'm saying. You don't have to make it make sense to other people. If it makes sense to you, it makes sense to you. But the way James Gunn has gone about everything since the firing of Henry Cavill, I personally think it could have been handled much more professionally and in a much better way. And I think he could have tried to win over those fans a little bit more, because I do think that was kind of the catalyst for a lot of them, especially like radicalizing a lot of them. God, I make it sound like a terrorist group or something, but no, I mean, I just think, his opinion and the way his attitude has been through this whole process has only made people's opinions grow stronger in both directions, because when one side gets louder, the other side plants their feet even more and gets even louder. So it's just a vicious cycle, and it's kind of really frustrating, because when you have a guy running your entire studio almost, like Kevin Feige, you expect some professionalism. You expect them to handle situations better and different than your average person. But that doesn't really seem to be the way Gunn has been going about things. Another issue I think people take a lot of issue with, and one that I actually found odd too, was like his self-insertion into most of the marketing and like the process of this movie. It's something you don't really notice or think about, but directors don't usually insert themselves in marketing a lot. They're not usually in a lot of the marketing, especially with interviews like with the cast. They're not in a lot of the pictures, but that has been the opposite for this movie. I mean, I remember seeing pictures from, I think, Entertainment Weekly or something, where they were in a photo booth, like David and Rachel, who play Clark and Lois, and then another photo booth next to them is James Gunn, and it's like the cuck chair for Superman. Like it's just really weird. It's bizarre, and I have nothing against. I'm not taking a stance here. Again, I have to clarify this. I'm not taking a stance, but it's objectively weird, and I think you could be a fan of the movie and admit that is the case. And especially when you know the fact that James Gunn loves this character, it's his favorite superhero and all this stuff, and he's been looking forward to doing this movie, and that adds another layer to it where you're like, okay, so is this just like wish fulfillment? Like you get handed power, so you put yourself in the... It's kind of like Quentin Tarantino. You know, like, no, guys, it's essential that I drink tequila as it's dripping off of Salma Hayek's raw feet. Yeah. No, that's essential to the plot of the movie. I actually have to be in this scene. I also have to be in every scene where they, my character says the N-word. It's stuff like that where it makes you question, where it's like, when does a director's fetish or like wishes or dreams come into play, and when are you allowed to call that out? Because I think there's some of that here with James Gunn. Like I said, he's also in a lot of the cast interviews, which is quite odd. But moving on, I just want to talk about something else that I've noticed, which is influencers and their connections to this movie. Now, something I've noticed, specifically, I will use a specific example. I like the Real Rejects. I've been following them since it was just Greg and John. And now, obviously, they have a whole crew. If you're not familiar with them, they have a bunch of crew people. They do reactions, mainly reactions, but a lot of reviews and other types of content. And, good for them. They've grown a lot in the past years, which is awesome. And I love it when content creators grow. The issue comes when they start getting invited to certain events and, they start getting a little too close to certain studios. And I've had this happen with other creators in the past that I've liked, where, I trust their opinion, and a lot of other people do too, which is why they're subscribed to them and why they follow them. But you trust that opinion, and then you start to notice a little pattern where it's like they start liking and praising movies that you like. Number one, you don't think they would have done, like, say, 2 years ago. But number two, it's just a little bit much, like the amount of, praise and stuff that it gets. And again, I'm not saying Superman does not deserve praise. If you want my quick opinion, I think it's awesome to have a Superman that gives people hope, inspires them to be kind and caring. And I think it's beautiful to have that in this world that we're in. And I think that's honestly what this character stands for. So I think it's awesome. I think it's honestly what DC needs. DC probably needs to just go in that direction right now. But specifically with the Real Rejects, they made a video kind of making fun of their fans who are saying, like, they're paid to say good things about the movie. Basically, they've outright said, we are not paid by the studio to say good things. But I think the issue lies in the fact that, like, people are not outright saying you literally accepted a check from Warner Brothers in order to say good things about the movie. I think people more so mean, and this is what my opinion too, that you are getting, special access to sets, you're getting screenings to events, you get to interview the director and the cast, and you're hanging out with them too. Like, there's just stuff like that where it's like, okay, you're doing all that. Now, do you think your audience is going to trust that your opinion is totally unbiased and you're not swayed at all? Like, you don't have any... I'm not even saying they're doing it intentionally. I'm just saying, like, it's human nature. When you're given stuff like that and you're hanging around those people, it's going to be harder to criticize them. It's kind of like giving a negative review to someone, but instead of making a video about it and uploading it, you just say it to their face. Like, it's harder to do that. It's not an opinion. That's an objective fact. Like, It's just harder to say cruel things to somebody's face. But, when you meet them, when you put a face to the name, you hang out with them, you get to know them, it's even worse because you almost feel like friends, I'm sure. And I noticed the Real Rejects were doing interviews like one-on-one with James Gunn and various other creators too. I'm not singling out the Real Rejects. I think Den of Geeks did it. I know Soups did. He posted a picture very notoriously of him sitting in the director's chair with James Gunn on the set of Superman. So it's stuff like that with these content creators where I truly do question their integrity, and that's not a dig against them. But, well, I mean, you could take it as that if you want, but I'm just saying, like, they've never really been like this, and now with this movie, of all movies, it just seems like it's dialed up to 11. And I'm telling you, I've never seen... Soups is usually high energy, and a lot of these other people are usually optimistic, but I feel as if they had their minds made up about this movie before it released. And if you agree or disagree, you can let me know down below, but that is my honest to God opinion. I have... not really followed Soups like I follow the Real Rejects, which is why I'm kind of focusing in on them. I just feel like their whole like approach to this process leading up to the release of this movie was so out of character. And like I said, luckily enough for them, they got specific access to the movie and the director and actors. And I'm just saying, I think that kind of stuff definitely sways an opinion, and that's what I think people mean when they say like you're bought and paid for. Like, you're not given checks, no, but your positive review is welcomed. I'm sure they've deliberately told them that, but also like they know if they give a negative review, they're going to be less likely to be invited back to do those interviews, to get that like kind of exclusive access. So, and when your whole channel is kind of based on stuff like that, and that can give you like such a boost in like views and also ratings, and just the amount of exposure you get is probably so great that like, why wouldn't you just kind of fib it a little bit or just like ham it up? I'm not saying they didn't enjoy the movie, but I do think they hammed it the hell up. And, I say that because leading up to the movie, they were just talking about like, they would talk about the movie in certain like Instagram reels I saw or certain videos, and it's like they almost started to cry, and I'm like, dude, I don't think there's anything wrong with crying, especially over a movie if it affects you, but the movie was not out, and they were already getting like emotional, which makes me think like, it's just, I just think they had too much invested, and I think that people deserve transparency when it comes to YouTubers, because when you build your brand on that, and you build your brand on like, having a trusting audience and the audience giving you their trust, I think you owe it to them to keep that. Nothing wrong with going to movie premieres, but I do notice a correlation between the YouTubers I follow that had gotten invitations to the premieres versus those that did not. Both like the film, but one side, I honestly like it, there's just such a stark difference. One side loved it so much, and there was like nothing you could really say bad about it. And then if you go in their comments and there's people like disagreeing, they just get attacked and bombarded, which and it's just funny to me. It's ironic because the Real Rejects themselves were all posting about like how it's cool and punk rock to be hopeful and kind, which I think is a great message. Again, I think it's a great message, but they turn around and they do a video making fun of people that believe that they got paid to give the movie good reviews. So it's like, what's cool is being kind and hopeful cool, or is like retaliating at people that are apparently wrong better? Because like, to me, if those people were wrong, what's the point in even like making an entire video mocking them? I would just make a video being like, listen, this is our honest opinion. If you guys don't want to believe it, that's fine, but this is how we truly felt. And I'm sure they've done one of those, but I'm just saying like they keep doing this where they keep addressing these people, and it's always in a more negative way. So I think it's just very ironic that that people can't really say what they want to either way on this movie, and that's the whole point of this video. I think people should be able to express themselves on the internet. I know people say like, well, it's the internet. If you don't want to be, shit talked or whatever, don't post on the internet. But I think people still deserve and should have the right to be able to express themselves in whatever the way they want, as long as it's not actually harmful to other people or illegal. And I think that's the case with this movie. Just let people enjoy something. If they enjoy it, let them enjoy it. And if you didn't enjoy it, or if you didn't even watch it and you're going to try to like, bring down their enjoyment, that's not cool. And you really should not do that, because no matter how bad you want something to be one way, that's just life. Life isn't always going to go the way you want. And especially with, it's a movie. I mean, if you want Henry Cavill, go watch Henry Cavill's movie over and over. Like, that's what I'll do whenever I want to see Henry Cavill. But when I want a new Superman, I'm going to go to see the new Superman. So yeah, I think it would just be awesome if everybody could just get along. I think it would be cool if the Snyder side of the fan base would just kind of mellow out a little bit and just like try to maybe embrace the future. I'm not saying you have to enjoy the movie or enjoy everything about it, because there's certainly flaws with it, but I mean, you don't have to be so intense and so negative. And that goes for the other side too. You don't have to be so intense. You don't have to be so negative, especially when your side is the one preaching about the hope and the kindness and the beauty in other people. I mean, it's just crazy. And I'm sorry. I mean, I could keep ranting about this on and on, so I will stop myself here. That's basically all I wanted to say. If you like Superman, if you like DC, if you like superheroes, go see the movie. If you don't want to see the movie, then don't, obviously. I mean, you're not forced. Just try to be kind to one another. Try to, embody what Superman tries to preach, because I do think it's a good message, and I think it's more of what the world needs right now.